The market revolution was a significant event in the United States history, which we could say stretched over 100 years, though it was greatly intensified from the early to the middle 19th century. It was marked by several major changes. One, how we create goods. We go from being generally artisans who make the entire part of a good to manufacturing, to eventually interchangeable parts. There's a transportation revolution. There's a communication revolution, the way that we finance goods, the role of the government in industry and production. All of these change in such a way that they really change not just industry, not just manufacturing, but also the fabric and culture of the United States. During the market revolution, then, again, production goes from producing mostly for yourself or maybe for a small number of clients that live by you, maybe in the town that you know. You're an artisan making every part of the product from start to finish. And we go to large scale manufacturing, particularly making goods for others. And eventually, by mid-19th century, we're moving towards a national economy where you may be making goods for people in another state who you've never met and never will meet. Here's just an example of a common glass factory in the late 19th century. In the early 19th century, this would have been a person that got the coal or got the wood, stoked the furnace, heated the glass, blew the glass, sold the glass, and delivered the glass. So a really significant change during this time. For part of the market revolution to take place, there had to be specialization, and the new manufacturers had to be able to sell goods across the country in a new national economy. So part of the changes that were necessary was a dramatic increase in the amount of strong transportation structure to be able to ship goods both much more quickly and efficiently and much more cheaply. In the North, this was actually marked by the introduction of canals. In the state of New York alone, there were over 3,000 miles of canals created during the first half of the 19th century. And by the 1860s, midway through the market revolution, there were over 30,000 miles of rails in the United States, though it will be good to remember that most of these are in the northern half of the United States, and that's one of the reasons why the North becomes primarily an industrial area and the South remains primarily agricultural. It's also in the 1830s that the first national road is finished. This is the national road in 1850. By the 1830s, it only goes to Wheeling, West Virginia. So the first so-called national road is from Baltimore to Wheeling, but for that time, that's quite a large expanse. The National Road then is the forerunner of the Transcontinental Railroad, which is completed in the 1860s, mid-19th century, and then of the interstate highway system created and finished in the mid-20th century. So when we look at structural changes, improvements, it's not just like there's a market revolution and then there are never again major revolutions in transportation. They happen in every century. Predominantly in the North, there are the major change in transportation is canals. Here is pictured a common canal. This is actually part of the Erie Canal, very large system of canals. And again, there are about 3,000 miles of canals in New York alone. With some of the larger canals, then there's a push for more steamships, both to be on the canals and on the rivers. And again, the steamships going up and down the river is going to be much quicker, much more efficient, and much cheaper. Here's a map of the Baltimore and Ohio as it will connect 13 states. And this is really just a good example of how railroads are created or built, particularly in the mid to late 19th century, making transportation again much quicker, much more efficient, and cheaper. Additionally, with steam power, we will be able to move factories to other places. Throughout the early 19th century, any type of a factory has to be near a river. As you can see through this diagram, you have the water run through a paddle wheel, creating the electricity needed to run it. So you're really limited even in the size of the factory or the production facility, as well as how many people can work there. Once we have steam powered, we can put the factories down anywhere. They can be of any size, and that allows us to put them down in cities and allows us to go to larger scale production facilities, again, creating an end product at a much cheaper price. Important also to the success of the market revolution for it to even take place was government support, government regulation, and government subsidies. The laws of incorporating businesses provided for limited liabilities so that individuals could invest in stock, could loan money to corporations, and even a person that ran a corporation itself was not personally liable. That is, they did not have to risk all of their own wealth or all of their own money. Additionally, Supreme Court cases like Gibbons versus Ogden and Charles River Bridge encourage competition, and Dartmouth versus Woodward protect the sanctity of contracts against the possible encroachment even of a power so strong as a state government. Finally, the subsidization of the building of the transcontinental railroads and other transportation systems like canals are very important to create the infrastructure necessary for the industrial part of the market revolution, and this could be evidenced in laws like the Pacific Railway Act of 1862, the subsidization of the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, and other feeder lines into the Transcontinental Railroad.